Just going to run through with you how to hook up your home energy hub when it arrives at your place. So you probably will have received it on a pallet. Just stand it up against the wall and fix it to your wall. You'll notice that we've got battery cables and battery sense cables and temperature sense cables here ready to go. You'll find your battery kit in a crate like this. Your battery leads will be labelled, so it'll be pretty obvious where to hook them up. So I'm just going to run through it and hook it up and then start the system. It's pretty simple. So if you follow these steps, you shouldn't go wrong. So this is just be really careful when you're working with a battery kit, because batteries are potentially explosive. So you need to be a little bit careful about any metal tools you're using around battery terminals. Just hook it up, tighten on your lug, just smiling tight. Tighten on your positive. Okay, again, these will be all marked so you won't get it wrong. Okay. Put that in. Tighten up your positive leg. Now you'll notice on these positive and negative cable and on the mid cable, I'll show you in a second, these are called midpoint sensing for the SP Pro. It's very important that these are connected. Now we've put them in these lugs so you can't go wrong, but don't discard them, don't cut them off and think that they were just a scrappy piece of wire. They're very important, so you've got a midpoint sensor on positive, negative, and your midpoint cable, which is yellow cable, is on your centre link. Okay. Now, when you've hooked up your battery cables, you've also got to run over your, obviously you'll do this neatly in a little bit of ducting or something, but you've got to put in your temperature sensors. One of these temperature sensors is for the PL60 charge controller, and one of these temperature sensors is for the SP Pro. Both are very important. Just put them down inside the battery, like so, down there, push that down inside there, and that will keep an eye on the temperature of the batteries, and it will slow the charge rate down if the batteries get hot. Okay, so you've got your battery cables hooked up, you've got your midpoint sensing cables hooked up. The first thing you do is to put in the fuses, these fuses, there's 3 of them, put in these fuses in here, in your midpoint sense holders. So just put that in there, and you'll see that the SP Pro, the inverter charger, will react. There you go. So you'll see a few lights will start to come on, and the alarm may also come on. Just give that a second. There we go. Now it's charging up the capacitors inside the SP Pro, and it'll start sounding a warning because it realises that your main battery cables are not hooked up yet. So if the alarm annoys you, just silence the alarm. Now, you'll also see, this will have come to you, separated, it's got 3 fuses in it. This is your battery disconnector. So just put the battery disconnector in, okay? Make sure that everything is switched off. It'll come to you switched off, but just check that your AC board switched off, your solar array isolator is also switched off. So just close that over. Whenever you operate one of these, always operate it quickly. Just in case for some reason there was a load on there, it'll pull a spark, but because you're closing it quickly, it'll be safe. Okay, now you'll see that the SP Pro now, it doesn't have an alarm on it, it's happy now. And all you need to do is, see here where it says AC load, just hold your finger on this button for a second. You'll hear it change. And you'll see a little blue light will come on, and that's your AC load. And what that means is that you now have AC going out of the inverter over to your AC board. Okay? That's the SP Pro fired up. The next most important thing to do is to fire up or to set the timer on your PL60, your charge controller. Now we've set all the parameters in there, we've set your voltage in there, we've set your battery capacity in there, and a number of other parameters. But what you need to do whenever you've opened up the battery disconnector, you need to reset the time on the PL60. So what I've just set it here. So you just, it'll come up as battery voltage. So you'll just scroll through until you see something that says set. Now hold your finger on set and you'll see it comes up as time. You just hold your finger on time and see the little numbers are flashing. So we'll just set it for let's say it's say 6 in the morning here, because I don't want to do this for too much longer. But it's a 24-hour timer. So for example, it says 5 and 1, it says 5.6, 5.7, then goes 6. It's a 24-hour timer, but it's just broken up into segments of 10. So let's just say it's 750, 7.6. So that's probably 25 to 8, 7.6. So just hold your finger on again, and your time is set. If you scroll through, it says 24 volts, but you don't need to change that. We will have already set all those parameters for you. And then just keep scrolling through until you get back to the front screen again. There you are, battery volts. So now you've set the timer on your PL60. That's really important, because whenever you download data out of this, and you'll see on another video how to get data out of the PL60, it always gives you the reading from 12 o'clock of the night before. And that's why it's important to set that time. Okay, so the SP Pro is running. The PL60 is now set up. You've set the time on the PL60. Everything else will already be in place here for you. Like your fuses will be in, your fuses are rated correctly. So you don't really need to touch anything else. The next thing to do is to plug in your solar, and we will have the cables will be made up for you. And I guess by now you will have put the solar array on the roof. So we've got some inputs here. So all you need to do is plug these in, and we generally have these numbered for you as to which cable goes into which input, just in case you may have 3 modules on one lead and 2 modules on another. So they just plug in there, nice and easy. Plugs in there, nice and easy, like so. So now we've got your array, your solar array voltage from here across to the bottom of your fuses, right? And these are what we call string fuses. Each one of these is separately fused. And if we close those over now, just close your fuses over, and we switch on the array isolator, like so, and come back up to the PL60 and just click through till you see charge, you'll notice on here we've got 3.2 amps of charge going in. Now it's really important to check just by pulling out one of these fuses, like I've just, have a look there, I've just pulled one fuse out, but I've still got some charge going in. And then if I pull that one out, it drops right off, so there's no charge. And what we've really done is just at one at a time, checking that each string cable is actually working. In other words, you don't have a loose connection on the roof. So either pull one out at a time and just see it change, or push one in at a time and just see, you might start at 2 amps and then you push another string in and now you've got 4 amps of charge. Obviously depending on the sunlight that you have at the time. But it's important to make sure that each one of these string cables is actually operating. That's it, we're set up ready to go. Now all you need to do is on your main switchboard, you've got a main switch and you've got power and light breakers there. So we're just going to just switch on your main switch. You might have a light circuit breaker and a power circuit breaker. And your local electrician needs to just wire into this board here, power and lights. Or in some cases, it'll just be simply just a sub-main circuit breaker that you will have asked us for if that's how you want it set up. So your electrician will just wire into this sub-main circuit breaker, just his active, his neutral and his earth. It means that if your electrician has wired up your place, obviously he needs to have an earth stake in somewhere. So he'll just have an earth link, an earth cable from our earth bar to the earth bar in the localised switchboard. If this is totally standalone and this is the only switchboard on the property, you'll need to make sure that we've given you an earth stake, and you will have let us know that, an earth stake that you'll drive into the ground and just connect your earth cable up to our earth bar. And that'll give you a good earth. For those who are electrically minded, we may or may not have MEN'd inside the switchboard, but that's something we will have spoken to you about regarding how your system's set up and whether we're having an MEN point here, which we generally prefer because this is the source, or if the MEN point is already at the localised switchboard. But generally we would prefer it here, and the SP Pro would prefer it here too. So now we've got your system set up, you've got 240 volts coming through your inverter, you've got 240 volts into your little switchboard, and just to prove it, we've got just a heat gun here, rated at 2 kilowatts. So, heat gun's working. Another thing to check when you get a load operating like a heat gun, or anything, a drill or anything like that, is that when you hook up your heat gun, you'll notice suddenly on the SP Pro that you've got 90 amps going out. And if you switch it off, you're down to 0.9 of an amp, which is what the inverter's using to keep itself alive there. So again, we switch on a load, and you'll notice the output's up to 91 amps. So the system's coping quite well with a 2 kilowatt load. In this particular case, this is a 3 kilowatt inverter, so it'll handle that quite comfortably. Another thing that we've done on most of our systems is we've put in an indicator light just on the side here. And the whole idea of the indicator light is to come on when the state of charge of the batteries is down at 70%, and it will go off when the state of charge rises to 80%. It's just an indicator light. It's not a panic light or anything. It's just designed to indicate to you where your state of charge of your batteries is. And you'll see that on the SP Pro anyway, but this is something that people tend to like to see. Just something, a reminder that if that light was on at 7 o'clock in the morning, it shouldn't matter. You've got all day to charge your batteries up because of the sunshine. But if that light was on at, say, 5 in the afternoon, you might want to plug in a generator just to give your batteries a bit of a kick along if you've got, if you know you're going to be using a fair bit of energy at night. Often that light will come on if you've had a few days of fog or you've been using the system fairly heavily and drawing a lot of energy out of it. Generally the systems are designed so that you're only operating in the top 20% of the batteries, and that way you'll get maximum battery life. Just one other thing. If we were going to plug a generator in, we've set the system up. Just imagine that this is your generator. So your generator's humming away outside. Your battery state of charge is a bit low, and you want to kick the batteries along a bit. We just plug in a lead like so. And if you see the SP Pro, suddenly now it recognises that there's an AC load. Then it goes to a transfer light. So what it's doing is it's feeding your load, and simultaneously it's charging the batteries. And you'll notice on here where it says charging source, before we plugged in that AC load, the only charging source, it knew that renewables were charging. But now that we've plugged in the AC load, renewables are charging and your generator's charging. And if you look over here on your PL60 charge controller, we'll just scroll around and you'll notice that charge is now, it's 20 amps. And you would have noted before it was only 4 amps or so coming off the roof because it's a bit cloudy here this afternoon. But now the SP Pro is charging and you can see the charge going into the batteries. It's important too that we know what size your generator is before we send this out to you. So if you've got a 5 kVA generator, or 6 or 7, 8 or 10, we program that into the SP Pro so that it's not labouring your genset. So if you only had a 5 kVA generator and this thinks you've got a 10 kVA generator, you'll notice that your generator is labouring pretty hard because this is trying to draw a lot of current out of your generator to charge the batteries up fairly quickly. So if you follow all those steps, you'll get your system up and running quite easily. Obviously, if you have any problems, you'll call us at Living Power 1300 443 431. Thanks.